Greetings, adventurers. This is DM Kurt. I'm going to talk to you about custom monsters for D&D 5th edition. This is part 2. We are modifying existing monsters without changing the challenge rating. The platform for this one, I want to use the Iron Golem. It's a classic monster, been around since 1st edition at least. Okay, it is a very large metal construct, usually shaped like a soldier of some sort, holding one great big sword, the equivalent of a two-handed sword. For 5th edition, it has AC 20, 200 to 300 hit points. It is immune or resistant to over a half a dozen different things. It's flat out tanky. It will take a beating. But for attacks, these are pretty boring. It has the one big hit with that big sword, and then it has a slow effect, which could be scary. You're trying to run away from it, and you're slowed down, so you can't get away. Well, that's the equivalent of a spell. 4th, 5th level of spell, whatever. So let's swap that out with, give it a breath weapon type attack. Now, who built this thing? Well, whoever built this monster could have put their own unique touch on it, and the way that they themed it should fit the culture of whoever did it. So let's say dwarves. So I had one in a adventure that I ran. So what I did is, instead of the one big sword, I had it have two smaller swords like daggers. And I had the creature throw those and then reel them back through a chain that attached from the pommel to the weapon to a hole in the palm of the creature's gauntlet, and then run up to winches in the shoulders. Now, if we're going to keep the monster at the same challenge rating, we'll just keep the damage the same. 2 attacks at half the damage each, or the damage normally due from the big hit, but it's throw, and then it's reeling in one round while it's throwing on the second round. Third round, it's throwing with this round, with this arm. Next round, throws with this round, with this hand. And it's every time the other one is reeling in. So you're still doing the same amount of damage per round, but it's just being done in a slightly it's articulated by you in a slightly different way, making it seem like it's kind of cool, kind of different. Replacing that spell-like effect. Okay, so let's say we were going with dwarves. Let's have this thing described in ways that it sounds like it's powering up a steam-fired boiler inside before it starts moving towards the PCs. So as it does that special attack, perhaps describe it differently and have it do something slightly different of equivalent power. So the slow effect is a mid-level spell. Another mid-level spell is, say, Cone of Cold, or Fireball, or Lightning Bolt. Well, those are all kind of also the equivalent of breath weapons of various creatures with breath weapons. So this mechanical monstrosity with the boiler inside, it could, instead of having this weird spell-like effect, give off a blast of high-pressure, high-temperature steam, which would be blah, blah, damage at difficulties such and such to save for half damage. Whoosh, with steam. Or if you damage it, maybe the shearing of pins and stripping of gears makes a horrifying racket, which just reverberates off the walls and pierces your eardrums and does whatever amount of thunder damage. You could add little details of just describing its design differently. Perhaps this thing is short and wide, and it's kind of built 8 foot by so many feet to help block off the width of a tunnel. And on its boots are attached shields so that it could participate in the shield wall of a bunch of dwarves. Those dwarves being not present, so you haven't thrown the balance of the encounter out of whack. Or maybe you might want to do that. That might be cool, you know, Iron Golem in the middle and a dwarf here and a dwarf there and a dwarf there, and they all have a shield wall built up and guys with spears behind that, and just this unstoppable phalanx moving slowly forward towards you as they want you out of their lair. Or maybe we do something the Iron Cobra of the snake cult. Take the same Iron Golem stats. Say that instead of the 2 legs, it has a big serpenty tail. And describe its sword differently. Instead of a 2-handed sword that it holds in one hand, not a claymore, but maybe more like a giant khopesh sword or a giant scimitar. Stats will be the same, but it's described differently. And if the PCs ever get it out of the critter's hands, they go, "Ooh, look what we got, so cool." And instead of the slow effect, maybe you hear the crushing of glass vials or bottles inside of its fanged face, and then it sprays forth a spray of poison. Make a saving throw of this, or you have that much damage. Still, we've used the same stat block, so it's therefore the same challenge rating. We haven't changed the damage amounts, we just changed the damage types. Now, if you change the damage type and the PCs didn't have special vulnerabilities or resistances from either of those 2 damage types, doesn't matter. If they're not resistant to lightning and they're not resistant to poison and they're not resistant to thunder damage or fire, then it doesn't matter. They take the same damage regardless of the damage type. So you can do that. And that's just this edition of Custom Monsters, Part 2. Please like and subscribe, and I'll try to get out some more content every week. Thanks. DM Kurt, out.